Thank you. First of all, this is fantastic. I'm excited how many people have hopped on, and thank you so much, Dayle, and Ivan. It's good to see you guys, and thanks for coming on as well. Really, the goal of this and kind of the spark was we got a grant from the National Fish and Wildlife to do some grazing consulting, and had a few people on who were beef grazers and sheep grazers, and we had kind of a cohort of all the participants, and they realized that a lot of the stuff that we were talking about in these cohorts were focused primarily on the grazing of beef cattle. And while that's the majority, the majority of a lot of the grazers that we have kind of represented in our membership, it's by no means all of the members that we have and all of the grazers that we have. And through that and some other conversations, we realized that we're really lacking in a lot of the education and information promotion on some of these other livestock enterprises, specifically on grass and pasture. And so trying to think of some ideas and ways that we could try and create networks and cohorts specifically around livestock production systems and management systems that may not be as popular in some of the other ones, as popular as livestock. And so that's kind of where this came out of. And for those who you probably all know, we have a 5-week series of this going on here every Thursday at 6, and I promise to be on time for the future ones and not come on any later for that. But we've got the livestock species that we're covering are today obviously hogs, and the Reinkes have so generously offered to come and talk about that. And then we've got goats, bison, sheep, and chickens, all of which are going to focus primarily on pasturing and the pasture-based model of raising those livestock species. And really, we just hope that it's a resource for you and an opportunity to network with some other people with similar interests and skill sets so that we can all kind of grow and learn together. And so I didn't know how popular these would be and how many people would sign up. I thought originally they might be some small, easy to kind of connect and network together and just have conversation together, but it's actually, we've got 30 people on so far, which is a pretty good group of people, and I'm not sure how much of that we'll be able to have. So we'll kind of just see how this goes, but really the hope is that it's engaging and conversational. So if you guys have questions for our speakers, I assume it's okay with them if you ask at any time. I think at the bottom somewhere, there's in reactions the ability to raise your hand. That way their eye or they can see that you're raising your hand and you have a question, and we can try and answer that. If you have anything else, you can type them in the chats or in the chat box, and we'll try to get to those as well. And then after they're done kind of doing their introduction, we'll just kind of see where it goes. I've got a few questions that I will kind of ask maybe of everybody here to engage in some conversation, but really would much rather go based on your questions than on the ones I've got. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Dayle and Ivan, if you want to take it away. And if anybody has any questions, yeah, feel free to type them in the chat or let me know.
Either that or just ask. That's fine too.
Okay,
this is pretty
cool.
Informal, so no problems there.
Yeah.
I haven't ever done the screen sharing thing. I've done lots of Zoom meetings, but I haven't actually done the screen sharing thing. So if that gets wonky, please let me know. I'm Dayle, and this is my husband Ivan, and we have Cloverleaf Grass Farm. And someone said already that you could see my screen, so I'm assuming that you can do that. So that's our family. Brett is the big guy in the front. Conrad's our middle son. Brett's 16, Conrad's 14, and Caitlin's 12. And we were at a corn maze this summer, and that's where we snapped that photo. So that's not actually at our farm. But we raise grass-fed beef, pasture pork, grass-fed lamb, and then Brett, our oldest son, has pasture chickens. He just does egg layers, and then Conrad, our middle son, actually has the lambs. So Caitlin is still, we're convincing her that she needs to take over the chickens from Brett, because as a 16-year-old, he's a little more interested in motors and fishing and hunting than he is chickens. So he needs to get a real job, I think. So anyway, moving on to pigs. There we go. Here is picture of our pigs. This was the summer right after we had gotten our group of pigs. As you can see, this was within the first couple days of getting the pigs, and you can see how dry it was. There was no rain, and so it was dry. Usually when we turn the pigs in to our pastured area, it's lush and green, and they almost get lost in the grass. Well, this year we didn't have that ability to do that. So we have the pigs on a pasture. We fence them into a smallish area, and we chunk that up. And as you can see in the photo, we have a big self feeder that we use, and we start out with a ration of, what's the percentage of first? Well, 16% protein for the ration when we start out, and as the pigs get older, we change that based on their weight. We drop the protein down, so we're not paying for the high protein cost all the way through. And that's something that that's pretty, their feed supplier, he's been really good about that, and that helps keep the cost down a little bit rather than just buying 1% feed the whole time, because they don't need it as they get older. So this is basically what we do. We do not raise our own replacements. We don't have facilities in the winter for sows, for farrowing. And so up to this point, we have not raised any of our own replacements. We purchased the feeder pigs, as you can see, at 30 to 60 pounds. I already mentioned the protein ration. And we do the outdoor pastured pigs, and we have maybe a little different model than some of you maybe are. I'm not sure what you're all hoping for, but we use our pastured pigs to renovate pasture, which I'll go into a little bit more. And then we finish our pigs at about 250 pounds, 250 to 300, or 350, depending on if you can get into the processor or other things, because sometimes things happen, and you just have to be at the mercy of other situations. More photos of the pigs. If on the picture on the upper left, the pig that looks like he's flying, you can see in the background some plants. It's kind of in the distance there, but those are pumpkins and squash, and that's been our model in the past, is where the pigs were. The following season, we plowed it once, just leveled it off basically, because the pigs do a fine job of tilling up the soil. And then the following spring, we go in and level that. And then we plant squash and pumpkins, sweet corn, and the vining crops. And the kids have used that as a moneymaker for themselves. They've taken care of that. It's a big space, and they've done some farmers markets and that kind of thing with their pumpkins and sweet corn that they've raised out of the pasture that we renovated with the pigs. And then the following year, we reseed that. We've chosen areas that we pasture to renovate, areas that are poor soil. The grass is there's a lot of bluegrass in there, so we need to do something different. It's not very productive. And so rather than, we can't do a whole paddock.
So where would you go?
What's that? Oh, okay.
Somebody might just be unmuted. Let's see. Or is there a question? If everybody could make sure they're muted, unless you have a question.
All right. So one of the some of the things Jared had asked were, so what are the pros of our model that we feel? And one of them is obviously the renovating of pasture. It works really well. There's not a lot of effort on our part. I mean, we fence an area, and we already have our pasture for our cattle is all, you can see the white posts, and we already have our farm broken up into different paddocks. And so we use one of those pasture lines to run the electric wire, and then we pound in fiberglass posts around the area, And then we divide up that area where the pigs are. You can see in this picture a clear delineation where the pigs were and where they were moved into. And so they do get fresh grass for a while until they get the whole place blackened, and then they're just strictly eating feed. But
keep moving ahead.
yeah, they keep moving ahead until they've successfully done their job.
So is it kind of like where they're always coming back to water and feed at one spot and you give them more grass to continue to root, or are you moving the feed and water infrastructure with them?
We move the water typically, well, we move it a little ways depending on how much hose we have. We have a buried water line out in throughout our whole place. So kind of on the left side of the screen, if you can imagine a straight line all the way down to the trees, and then it makes a U and comes back through to where the pigs are. And so we have a connection in every paddock all the way down. And so we can hook up water wherever, but it just depends on how long our hose is for our water tank.
We generally move our feed and our shade structure several times. So as they go down the paddock, we move that with them.
Sure.
And then the water, a lot of times water, they do go back quite a way. So we don't ever close it off so it regrows, because we don't intend that we this structure.
Yeah, it gives the kids a job the following season. They also help watch the pigs and take care of them. But the pigs are really pretty other than checking the fence and making sure that they're staying in, that there's not a lot of work with the pigs. We have found this past summer, we had some excitement. These pigs were very ambitious, and they were checking the fence as often as they could to make sure it was. And one morning we were checking cattle, and we saw something along our north line, and all of a sudden I realized that was our herd of pigs. Almost the entire herd was running down our north line, right on our neighbor's border line, which isn't a great, that's not a great thing to see 20 pigs running, free range. Anyway, I ran back. Ivan had to continue on with what he was doing. I ran back to where the pigs are right here. And to make a long story short, I started calling the pigs, and they looked at me and they came running, and I was able to disconnect the electricity and drop the fence, and I just called the pig piper. I'm thankful. I think there may have been angels hurting them. I'm not sure, but I'll just take it. So yeah, that happened a couple of times where the pigs discovered the electricity was off, and not all the time, or not the whole herd, but we had several times where pigs got out. And there's a couple other slides that show
when it was so dry, they don't ground well, and they're flipping that sod around, and they'll get it flipped over, because we start with 2 wires, and then we keep lifting the wires up as the pigs grow, and to make it a little higher. But they flip that sod around, and every time it rains, they're really going for it, flipping it around, and then they eventually they get it buried.
the wire buried.
The wire buried.
Because yeah, we just have the wire up about mid nose level.
Yeah.
So is all the taller the wire is. So it's barely at my knee. Are there any questions at this point?
There are a couple in the chat here.
Where I'm at, I can't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, one is just how much ground do they cover in a full season, and how many hogs are you running?
Okay. This last year we had 30 hogs. We raised 30 pigs.
We're at about an acre.
Yeah, they were about an acre. And yes, I do have a photo of the shade structure and another. And yes, if we kept the pigs moving, they wouldn't bury the line. But that's not our. We want them to completely root up this area. So that's
kill off
the bluegrass is what we're trying to do.
Select for them to not see.
I was just going to ask, yeah, why did you? What areas or what reasons are you selecting certain areas for your pig impact? Bluegrass was the thing.
Bluegrass is primarily the reason.
We've never renovated these paddocks on this end north of our place, and the bluegrass is pretty much taken over 100%. They're not 100%. I'll call it 80% of the forage density, and then so we decided this place we could do it. It's also close to our farmstead where we can herd them back in order to load them, because we still have to have access to load them out when we need to go to a processor. And
Sure. I'm curious if you've seen other benefits. So one of the, I'm not sure whose dog that is. One of the farms that I was at this past summer, Hannah Bernhardt's, she up in Hinkley area, Finlayson, she used hogs on what was pretty much like an old gravel pit. And we did soil testing there, and it was remarkable. Like, I think I had it pulled up for a field cafe chat we had with her on Monday. And I think the two samples we took about 20 feet apart, one that had pig impact for 2 or 3 years in a row, and the other that had nothing, went from a 0.9 to a 3.2% organic matter in a matter of a couple of years by just importing all that fertility and the hogs rotating. I mean, you're just kind of turning it under and incorporating that. Have you seen benefits? I mean, like, what have you seen, I guess, in years following the renovation of the pasture?
Well, these pictures right here, the picture on the bottom picture on the left is the remnants of a pumpkin patch after the pigs had been in it, and it is lush, and the pumpkins grow tremendously immediately the following season. And then after we seed it to the grasses, the grass mix, it has worked really well also. It's really grown well. We haven't done any soil tests in the pig, where the pig pastures
Is
are.
that a reject?
Pardon?
Part of in a little box. Stuck in the hole.
Is that, if everybody can please make sure they're muted on their Zooms on the bottom
Well,
left. Is the
imagine
mute-
they probably have to count it all.
I'm not sure if there's a way for me to mute everybody automatically. I know there's got to be a way. Okay, I'll mute them one at a time here. I found that way. Try not to mute you guys. Carry on. Sorry about that.
All right, no, that's okay. So that's our kids with their pumpkins a couple years ago. They had a blast with raising their pumpkins, and they were pretty successful selling them too. So that's been a fun project for them.
And then you can, all the extras, they just got fed to the cows that fall, and they just devoured them. And they're supposed to be a natural wormer also. So just one more step working that direction.
Mm-hmm. Here's another pro of having pigs. People love to see the pigs, and pigs are so curious, and they will come up, and so everybody thinks you have pet pigs. And so it's a great conversation started. These families right here were actually from California, and they had come to visit their brother, and they came out to see the pigs. And so that was a fun experience. The little girls had a blast. They thought the pigs were the coolest thing. So that was kind of neat. Here's a couple other pictures, and you can just see how we've renovated, and just some of the different photos of what it looks like. You can see the shade structure in the background in the bottom right picture. And then I've got some other closer pictures. I haven't built that shade structure. I haven't Brett. Several years ago, after we found out that our pigs were getting obviously they were getting sunburned. We had white pigs, and we needed something desperately. And we had made a more permanent structure, just buried some posts in the ground. But we decided something portable was much better for the pigs, and then we can move it to every place that we need it. So
we started with just pulling a hay rack in, thinking, no, they're 40 pounds, need some shade quick. And a lot of times we end up getting pigs in end of May and June, and the sun's pretty bright on them. And sometimes they're white pigs, and they just don't like. It's just too much at first. They get sunburned. It's a big issue. But they'll eat the valve stems right off your wheels. So just word to the wise, it's a good idea until you have to go get it and all the tires are flat. And you didn't think that was going to be an issue at the time. So now we have this one. It's built out of steel, got steel runners, and yeah, it's really nice.
yeah, they will also eat the
Wiring harness.
The wiring harness off your tractor. If you have to leave your tractor and go do something quick, not, you know,
They're just curious.
and they'll do all sorts of destructive things. So just FYI, don't leave your tractor sitting in the pig pen for any length of time unless you're there to move them away. So,
Alright.
so cons, what are the hard things about having pigs? It can be hard to source them. This last year, I don't know if anybody else had trouble sourcing pigs, but we had several farmers lined up that we were going to purchase pigs from, and everybody had the same issue. Their pigs died at birth. They had low numbers. There was a disease that went through, and it was just crazy. I mean, we talked to people several different parts of the state that had just awful luck with baby pigs this year. So we ended up finding pigs out in Nebraska, which was kind of a risk. We weren't sure how that was going to go, but the guy said we will be happy with them. They were outdoor pigs, and we were. They did amazing for us.
Yeah. They were ready to be outside, that's a major adaptation that you don't have to deal with when you get pigs from other people, because you never know where you're going to find enough pigs. So if you want to get 10, that's different than if you want to get 25 or you want to get 30 pigs, because then you either got to pull different groups together, and then you're from different people, and you may have a problem with the sickness or the illness through there. With the two coming together, or you just getting them and just trying to find them. So, and to find 30 at one time can be very difficult. So sourcing them it's just a huge thing.
Another con possibly is if you're not looking for the moonscape like we are. I mean, our plan is to destroy an area so we can renovate it. If you're hoping just to graze it, you need to be moving a lot faster. Somebody mentioned moving ahead faster, which is absolutely right. That's not our plan. And so that is something that you need to consider, because they will turn it black in a very short amount of time if you leave them longer than you were intending. So that's, I mean, in our case, it's not a con, but it can be depending on what your plan is. Winter water is kind of a pain. If it gets really cold, our water is outside. And so we have no electricity out to where the pigs were. So depending on when it gets cold, we have to move our pigs up to the barn, and then they're outdoor pigs. And then we have a water tank in the barn that we can run electricity to and have a heater in there, but that's just kind of a pain. Fence maintenance versus having free range pigs. You got to check because they will check if you don't, and they'll find a way out, and they'll check just to see if it's electric. Another con, processing doesn't always work right. I have a picture up ahead of that. I mean, sometimes processors don't work out. Sometimes the product doesn't turn out right, and you have to deal with that.
That processing end of the marketing can be a major hardship.
Yeah. Scheduling a processor can be hard. Their processors are kind of few and far between, and so finding a processor that you can schedule with can be a serious challenge. So
before you move on, I was just going to say on this, one question I had, I guess, is have you looked into getting sows of your own yet? If sourcing feeder pigs is a challenge, or what's the decision with just buying in feeders?
We have considered it, but I kind of like not having to have sows year round and taking care of them and not being completely tied to the farm 24/7. For the project, we've been trying to streamline some of our projects. Our kids are, like I said, 16, 14, and 12, and our son is in football, and so there's a lot of activities that we're getting into. And so some of our ventures that we had started with, we used to do pasture chickens, and we dropped that a couple of years ago just because of the time constraints that put on us.
Sorry, we didn't hear Ivan. If you could, I didn't.
Just to do something well, it takes a lot of time, and yeah, so that's why we've streamlined some of what we do.
See, I'm gonna look at the chats. Do you plan to reseed or cover crop?
First year, we level it and kind of fill in the holes by moving stuff around with some tillage. And then we plant, basically it ends up being a cover crop. So usually it's squash and pumpkins, that type of thing. And then the second year, we've been doing a diverse legume and introduced cool season mix. So so I'll give you some species that work well on our farm. Meadow brome, smooth brome, Timothy, orchard. And then we've been going to a little bit of alfalfa, a little red clover, and that's maybe some bird's foot if I have it. That type of thing is usually what we've been doing, and it works well. This is where we're doing this. It's pretty high and dry. The pH is, I think it's about a 6.2, 6.0 to 6.2 is what it's been when I've done the soil tests out there. Organic matter is slowly coming up, but it's very sandy. It's a loamy sand, so it's a very drought-prone soil.
Are we paying for our feeders? This year we paid more than we had in the past.
How fine do you want that? Anywhere from they've been in. I'll just give you a range: $40 to $100, or depending on the size and quality and what your relationship with who you're getting them from, and timing. So if you're willing to take pigs off season, like I just last week I saw the sale barn. I looked at the sales barn ad today for their market report. They had 8 feeders in, and they were $25 this week. But are you set up to handle pigs when it's this cold? But if you are, there's I think there's profit to be made. But it's like, granted, you're not raising them now. You're gonna have to have some sort of get back and something else to do that. So, but yeah, when everybody else wants pigs in our area, they get expensive, it seems like, in the spring.
And that doesn't actually seem out of line from what I've heard of other people paying for grass, kind of forage-based feeders anyway, like the type to fit the system you're doing. It seems pretty on par.
Yeah.
The guy this spring, they were pretty expensive pigs, and he just guaranteed it. He said, "You're going to love these pigs." And I have to say, and we've been raising pigs for what, 15, 20 years of some sort, and these are by far were the best pigs for growing out on grass and growing on pasture, just being outdoor pigs. These were the best.
Yeah. Do we have parasite problems in our pigs? We have. This year we did not at all. That goes back to having quality pigs. We got pigs out of a barn last year. We haven't bought pigs right out of a barn very many times. Last year we did, just because we had trouble finding pigs too, and that was a train wreck. We did have to deworm the pigs. We had to medicate the pigs. We had pigs die. We had pigs sunburn, and they developed neurological issues. What else can I say? It was awful. It was. So I have another place where they say don't buy white pigs, and that was part of it. They were white, they were genetically not for being outside. Yeah, they really weren't. You can get white pigs that can do okay outside. We've done that. We've gotten them from some friends, and they've done well. They got sunburned, but they come through it. This other batch did not do well at all. Yeah. They ended up okay, but yeah. And I'll say, yeah, a lot of times we do get some worms that we in the pigs, and a lot of times because we're growing them out to finish, we have most of the time just, if they look healthy, we've ignored it. Yeah. And just let it go on, and they went to processing, and they've been fine. Never had any issue with thriftiness of the pigs that way. So when we last year was probably the only time we really had that issue, where we've had to take serious action. 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah. Serious action we had to take. Yeah. How do you think your pastures were overtaken by bluegrass?
Sandy soils, it was in CRP for 10, 20 years. I'll say 20 years because it went through 2 cycles. And then when it came out of that, we started grazing it, and it had some native warm seasons planted in there too. But I think just the droughtiness and that stuff, but not getting actively managed, that bluegrass just overtook it. Being it's a cool season, it came on early, and the warm seasons got beat out in that aspect. Then we went to bale grazing. We have bale grazed out in these paddocks, and that really sets up the quackgrass in them, but it doesn't, and the bluegrass too, but the quackgrass really goes wild until you get a droughty time, and then all of those things shut down, and they create a sod that's, I won't call it impervious, but we've tried no-tilling a little bit into them. And the only thing we've been able to successfully get at times is red clover, but we cannot, that bluegrass just has such an impervious root structure right at the surface of the soil that it sucks up any water that's going to be taken by other plants. So if you got small seedlings, they just can't outcompete it, it seems like, unless you do something to majorly set it back.
How would you say the bale grazing versus renovating with pigs, in the long term or the short term versus long term kind of impacts? Like one more than the other?
I like bale grazing better, probably personally, but we need a place for pigs, and this is the place that they're going to go. This is where we can go, still in conjunction close to our farmstead. So these are probably 300 yards from our farmstead to the end of them, I guess, something like that, 200 to 300 yards. And we've went as far as about a quarter mile. And that just gets to be, at first I was looking at the risk, how do we get them back to the house? And Dayle proved, she's got a slide further on, but she proved that that's not too hard. You just set up a fence, and then I have to go find something else to do. And she's got the patience, and here they come. So anyway, that's how that goes.
The daily weight gain we're seeing on pasture, and those two kind of go hand in hand. What is the daily weight gain we're seeing on pasture? Are we full feeding in the bulk feeder? And yes, we are. As far as the average daily gain, we don't.
I could do a little quick math, but I plan for 800 pounds per pig. 40-pound pig to go to processing. That's what I shoot for, or I plan for is about 800 pounds. I don't know what that ends up being. And this year we haven't done our bookkeeping yet, or math end to know what it ended up being. I do know that our pigs stayed longer than we planned this year, so they would have ate more than that. Probably.
That was a processing scheduling issue, is why they stayed longer. So, but they grew tremendously. We got them bigger, and had we been able to get into our processor like we were supposed to be able to originally, they would have eaten less. So just because of how well they grew.
I think sometimes that's quality of feed too, that they do well, and then good genetics that do well out there.
So there's another picture of our shade structure. And you can see what happens. There's another con of the pigs. If if they get a little too aggressive, we have this board. You can see that board under the water tank, and that has saved us a ton of problems. So the pigs, if the water tank gets low at all, they love to flip it over, and they like to dig under it and do all sorts of stuff. Having a board under there that the water tank sits on, that they have to step on to drink, so they're holding the board down, so they can't flip anything over. And we've got an automatic water on there with a hose. And so the tank stays pretty full unless we have something gets shut off. But that board under there has cured a lot of the rooting, although in this case they rooted under the board. It was dry enough, and we just had some issues this year. They caused an avalanche. Anyway, so I went out there one day, and that was what I found, and they thought it was great fun.
They seem to
But
be
their
pretty
board has
happy.
helped tremendously to, they can't dig underneath, and that just, that's been a headache we've had for a couple of years, and we did this, 2 years ago, we started with a board, and that really has worked.
You can, in the picture that's around the picture above, you can see how the pigs will run up over the fence. They'll flip the sod over the fence, and then you can see that pig had spent the night outside. And he made himself a nice little bed, and he was just thinking he was great.
Living life.
Yeah. So the fence along there, I don't have a picture of moving the pigs. But that fence up along there is basically like the alley I set up to the house. I just put in some posts and a couple of wires about a little higher than nose length, and we walk them in an alley just like that up to the house. A couple of us have some boards. One of us goes ahead and calls the pigs, and they're curious enough, and we've been out there enough that they follow us right up to the barn, and it's been really slick. Like I even said, if there's an antsy one, person, you send them to do a different job, because you can't get mad at pigs. I mean, you can, but they seem to really relish anger, and so they'll do anything they can to make you angry if you get angry. So you just send the angry people away, and you laugh at the pigs when they do stupid things. So anyway, that's just my own little bit of wisdom.
I just did the math. We had them about 135 days before I processed the first one. I did the first 2 of them here at the farm with the scale. They dressed hang and weighed 180, and the other one was just 205 or 210, something like that. So they were already big, and that was we got them in mid-June, and they left those were mid-October's. So they grew really well.
So this was back to processing issues. This is a picture of bacon that doesn't turn out. So when your processor screws up a recipe, and that's the bacon your customer gets, they're not very happy. It was a bummer. It was a big bummer. So thankfully the processor, apologized. They took all the bacon back and they remade bacon. It wasn't our bacon, but they got another bacon and they replaced the bacon, and the people were okay. I mean, not really happy, but they got bacon back, because bacon is kind of an important part of a pig when you get a whole pig or a half a pig. So yeah, that's life. What do you do? Aside from get really frustrated and want to cry. But that's what it is. Back to this question here. Yeah, we said about 800 pounds.
About 800 pounds
per pig
is what I planned
for feed. Yep. So processing was the next question. Developing relationships with your processor is critical. Having that open line of communication, whether it's scheduling, or whether it's the recipe, or whether it's whatever. This year was a hard year with processing. I'm not going to say a lot about that, but yeah, this was a hard year for processing. We have several processors. We've just added another processor. And so that's a challenge. Finding one that makes products that you like, and uses ingredients that you expect. Nitrate free, we have one processor that does a great job with nitrate free. The other processor that we used was willing to try nitrate free, and they made some for us, and it turned out great. You can see what happened on another batch that didn't turn out so great on their nitrate free bacon. So that's, you do what you do, and you learn from that. Scheduling is critical. Product packaging is important. One of the processors, the packaging was really ugly. I mean, they paper wrapped some stuff, and it wasn't great. We do a lot of processing on the farm, and I do a lot of paper wrapping of our own product. And I don't know if I can say I pride myself in being able to wrap nice, but I can do a decent job of wrapping meat. I've done a lot of it, and I could have shown them a lot of things about wrapping meat at the processor, which is not what you expect. So anyway,
So when you look for a new processor, because we've dealt with quite a few, we've got some really good processors.
We have amazing processors.
Yeah, and very good relationship. But this year we had to make some decisions, so that's why we had to find another processor to work with. But you have to go and buy some of their product. You have to go and buy it and try some of the stuff so that you know what you're expecting. So because you are the relationship between, you feel like, well, your relationship with your customer is done when you take it to the processor. Well, no, you really have a lot of damage control possibly to deal with if the processor doesn't get them something they're used to. So if you've got a customer that's been getting product for several years from you, and then you have to switch processors, well, then things are different, and then you will get the call, not the processor. So that is something to think about. So relationship with the processor is critical.
A couple more questions here. So our feed, I think there's 3 questions here. So best breed of pig. Well, this year it was a 3-way cross, and it was the best breed of pig that we've had. They were a large black or large spot,
Hampshire and Duroc.
And Duroc was the 3-way cross, and that was by far the best cross that we've had. We've tried Megalitza cross. We've had just about every kind you can imagine. We've tried over the years.
Mostly the ones we've been the most happy with have been colored pigs.
Yep.
If that just leads you down the right road there, to start with colored pigs is a good place to start. And you don't have sunburn issues. You just there's a bunch of things that you start on a good foot.
Yep. Our feed is a corn soy ration, but it's a non-GMO soy, and it's roasted soy versus chemically extracted, which has made a ton of difference, which is crazy. We actually discovered the huge difference it made in our broilers when we switched from a conventional, just a chicken feed you buy for the broilers that you buy at the feed store versus this non-GMO home blend that our processor makes. And he told me, he goes, you are going to be amazed at the difference this makes in your chickens. And they grew better, they were healthier, we didn't have any health problems in our chickens. And we discovered the same thing with our pigs. They grew tremendously. And something about the roasted soybeans, the oil is,
it's crushed out. It's not chemically extracted. So there is still some oil and some energy left there from that. So there's something different about it.
Mm-hmm. And it is non-GMO. So there is, we're not, yeah. So that's been a good product for us. And we've free choice feed all season.
Yes.
They've got that feeder access the whole time. I mean, from the time they first come in, they've got a ton of grass till it's a moonscape. They've got the full feed. Do we plan to finish more than 30-ish feeders spring to fall? We're looking at going up in numbers, but we've done different batches. We've done a summer batch and then a winter batch of pigs, and obviously the winter batch then isn't on pasture. They're just in our barn and they can go outside. But
yeah,
I'm not sure
if we do that. Well, our pasture species changes have been made in the areas you want. Yeah, we've got enough area that we can do probably about, without getting too much further away, we can probably do another 8 or 10 years worth of pigs and keep doing an acre to 2 acres a year of renovation. Maybe could even do some more. We have about 25 acres within the same distance roughly from the house. So we can, so if I use that distance as being our critical factor, which I think that is to us, then that's kind of where we're at with that. So we could do more, and yeah, we won't have to go back for a while to the same sites.
Okay, here is just a picture of us. That was another package of processing. I'm not, I guess, boasting here. Here's our wrapping. that my daughter and I were making sausage. This is just our home stuff. We don't make for anybody else, but just some homemade sausage that we had made and we were wrapping. And
So get the family involved.
yeah, it's been a good project for us. The kids are pretty adept at all parts of processing. So that's been a good learning experience for them. They know how to do it, which is a good skill for them. What we wish we knew and what we think you should know about pigs. We already talked about buying pigs out of a barn and not buying white pig. Obviously that's your choice, but from our experience, it doesn't work well if you're going to have them outside and they don't have a good shade structure. But even so, that year that we were talking about, we had bought pigs and we were working with our neighbor and we had the pigs. They were in a barn and outside.
We got them fairly early. We got them in April, I think.
Yeah, it was still cold and there was still snow on the ground. So they were in a barn and outdoors, and we thought, well, surely that will be good. It'll be a nice mix. They won't get sunburned bad though, because they can be out of the sun. And they got burned immediately and they were sick immediately, and it was just not a good thing. So that's just our experience. I touched on the herding pigs and assigned the ANSI parties to a different job. We touched on that. Create a shade shelter. That is very important. It can be like the one we built. We put posts in the ground and just threw a roof over it. We did that too. That's just not portable. So really anything. You can use a hay rack, but just watch your tires. Put plywood under the water tank to slow the rooting out from under, which you saw a picture of. And then this summer, we haven't really had to worry about this in the past, but give them a mud hole or hose them down periodically when it gets hot. This summer was hot and dry, and we were getting some pretty stressed pigs. They never got sick, but we had some pigs that were getting pretty stressed a couple of times, so we had to go throw buckets of water in there to cool them off and give them a mud hole to cool off it.
Yeah, pigs can't sweat. You probably all know that. Pigs can't sweat, and so you got to help them out.
Yep. Straw or hay to burrow in to keep warm is needed in the late fall, which I've got pictures of that in a little bit. And pigs can be a lot of fun. I mean, they're kind of enjoyable. People like to come see the pigs. They kind of have a personality. This summer, I was a little annoyed with the pigs when they were getting out all the time, but thankfully they were easy. They knew what the plan was. We had a routine. They were just testing me. But no, they can be a lot of fun. They're enjoyable, and it's really fun when at the end when they're eating them, or when you're eating them. They're delicious, and so that's a bonus. More questions here. Okay, the Mangalistas.
Half-crossed Mangalistas. They did well for us. They did well, and yeah, I saw somebody say they have darker meat and stuff down below. I think they do, and I'll say from a meat quality standpoint, I like those breeds that have more fat and more red, a little redder, not as white. They're not as dry. And that's a personal choice. We've done both, and our customers, none of them have really had a lot to say about any of them.
There's not been a standout as far as the meat flavor. It seems to be more the processing. I mean, we've told the people about the breeds of pigs that we've had. We always let them know, but there's not been a year that they're, oh, this was the best. No, it was very definitely different between this year and this year with this breed of pig. We've not had that notice. I appreciate the tip there on the Gloucester Old Spot. That's good to know. And what is proved to be the best time to start them? A lot of times early April and May is when
we would love to start them as early as we could, just because then you're got a better chance of getting into a processor. You're done before a lot of the other fall rush stuff happens. But it seems like we end up still processing in October, November, and December. And it would be really nice if you could be done in end of August, September, October, your processor would be happy too, because you would be bringing in pigs, not necessarily off season, but somewhat off season to a lot of people. But we've, when we went out on pasture, we've done it, we went directly to pasture. Other than 2 years ago, we got our pigs early. We did not go directly to pasture, then thinking that, well, we'll get them a little early and we'll transition them so that they get some shade, some sun. And we thought, well, this will be great. And it didn't turn into something great. And, but I still think that it's promise. I really do. I think getting them in, if you could find them in, if you had some sort of warmer spot to put them, or you're in an area where it is warmer, I believe earlier it would be better to get started.
Our market. How do we find customers? We have a website. We have a Facebook page. We have Instagram. I send out a newsletter. Word of mouth. A lot of our customers are looking for non-GMO and nitrate free in our pork products. Nitrate free has been a big seller. Our processor uses organic seasonings and has the nitrate free offerings, and so that's been a huge thing. We have a couple customers that want nitrate. They want the nitrate bacon. And so we have a couple different processors that do different things based on our customers, what they want.
So the earlier you can figure out what your customer's desire is, or then you can schedule them at different places, your pigs. So if you have different processors, then you can schedule them differently that way.
As far as looking for something specific, in our pork, I think the nitrate free is probably the biggest thing. The products people love breakfast links. We had a customer this year. It was a new customer, and so the breakfast links we get are kind of like Jimmy Dean's. You know, I mean, they're just a casingless sausage. It's a quick fry them on the pan kind of a thing, and they're quick and easy. And one of our customers this year was expecting his sausage links to be in casings, and that totally threw him off. You know, he wasn't sure what to do with that. So that was something on me. I didn't know, he didn't know, and he didn't think to ask. And so it was just one of those things. But that really, he was puzzled about that. So yeah, just ask questions, you know, encourage your customers to ask questions. And then somebody, they raise mangalittas. They can't keep the meat in stock. Yeah, that's what we've heard too. Let's see. So they breed Berkshires, and mom, okay, to the Farrow in March. Take what is on from Eliza Anderson. We breed Berkshire, and mom takes them out by day 2 of the Farrow in March. Does that mean they're outside by then? Or I didn't understand that question, I guess.
How do we train them? I'll move on to how did we train them to fence at the start? And that was, we have just had a really hot electric fence, and we backed the trailer over the fence, and we let them out of there, and then we stand guard, trying to keep them going into a fence too fast. As long as they go in slow, about 95% of them will back up. And about 5% are going to squirt through like what just happened and don't realize that they shouldn't go forward, they should go backward. But they squirt through, and then you have to kind of run up. They want to be back with their groups. So you just kind of herd them back around, and they want to get in, and they'll get zapped on the way back in. But you hope they do it fast so that they don't back up that time. So
yeah. So they're talking about breeds. We use the primer one during weaning, that they go in and out. Okay, not far from mama. Okay. How do you determine our customers' desires, surveys, conversations? Yes, yes, and yes. As far as what they want, the product, that is something that they have to talk to with the processor primarily. We give them the list or the option of the processors that we have, so there's nitrate free or they can have nitrates, organic seasonings or no organic seasonings.
And we also give them a copy of the cutting slip from our processors. So the processor they're going to, we get them a cutting slip, and then Dayle has got a
Cutting guide.
That she's made to help them through asking the right questions.
Yeah.
It doesn't get everything, but you think it's getting everything, but you always find that it's missing something. But yeah, you try to help them because there's a lot of new customers that never have done it before. They have no idea what to ask. So you give them those things, and then she has a lot of time talking to them on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Cost per hanging weight that we charge, we haven't talked about that. Pork is $2.70 per pound, plus processing is what our cost is, what it was this past year. And let's see how much.
Confirm that was cost to the customer, or that was your cost of production?
That was cost to the customer. That was cost to the customer per pound plus processing, which is depending on how much smoking they have done, that varies.
200 to 300 would be average.
For a whole pig.
Yeah, for a whole pig.
Yeah, we had several. We had a couple. We had larger pigs. Our customers, their processing was $400. So it got real. I mean,
Yeah, they chose
to
be sausage links
or smoked, and so their pig was
large.
and then they had a $400 processing, but they were thrilled. So I mean that's good. I mean, that's what you want, but it sometimes you just never know. How much total time do you take? It figures from purchase to sale. I have pigs reserved for next fall right now. We just got rid of our last pigs in end of November, and so we will, providing we can find pigs, we will. But
on the feeding side, it takes about 5 months, I would say, if they're 50 pounds, 5 to 6 months by the time you get rid of them all. You can get a real even batch, and they all look nice, and you'll have, let's say there's 10 of them, you'll have 4 that do outstanding, and you'll have 4 that do, you'll have 3 batches of them by the time you're done, 2 to 3 batches that are, it's kind of crazy how they separate themselves out in the last days. So if you have to break up your time going to the processor, it's a good thing, because then you just take the big ones, and then in 2 weeks you take the next ones that are ready. And but they can be real even looking when you get them, and then they're a little bit different when they hit the end.
Yep. Specific hog products provided. What do you mean? From UMS Sandakan, is there any specific hog products provided? What can I ask? What do you mean by that one? I'll go back to that. And then, are you using custom exempt butchers or USDA inspected? Yes. Well, I guess we use state equal to inspected, and USDA inspected. So we use 2 of them.
And the custom
And the custom exempt. So we use all 3. So yeah, like I said, we have several processors that we use. Let's see. Is that all the questions? That showed there were more, but I am not able to get to any more. So we'll
I think that's
move
all.
on to
One question, unless you talk about it later or something on that, you talked about your cost to customer. Do you know what your cost of production is, and what if you mind sharing your margins, or what kind of profitability there is in the pork enterprise?
I can't tell you right now, we haven't done our books for this year, but give me a second.
Beck. He's
No
a
worries.
numbers guy.
Sorry. Yeah, and don't feel, share as much as you're comfortable sharing too. Don't feel obligated.
No, it's just numbers are, yeah. There's just a cute picture of a pig. this is this fall, providing straw. We put a round bale of old hay out there, and the pigs just take care of business. They roll it around and wedge it under. I guess we had to wedge this one back under there because they were trying to roll it out the fence and having some fun with it. So, but that's our 16-year-old son. And you can see a little bit of the alley. You can see our farmstead on the upper part of the picture. You can see a little bit of the loops that are down there. That's our alley, and then goes up along the trees and up to our barn up there. That's kind of
The upper left-hand corner
upper
there.
left-hand corner.
Yeah, because we've taken out 2 batches of pigs already by this time.
Things we hope to change. The sourcing of pigs, or did you come up with your number? Not yet.
I'm gonna say that it's $100 plus. I don't know. I can't tell you for sure because marketing and all that part of it, I don't know what that is off the top, but it's going to be $100 plus. It seemed like it's more when they get bigger. Our model says that they got to hit 150 hanging weight to be where we want to be or above. And that's what we promised our customers. So that's a 230 pound live hog, right? It to be about 150 pound hanging weight. So, and our hope is that they're hitting 180 pounds. I'm going to be honest, that's where our hope is. That's where I think that we're doing the best, is at about 180 pounds. And we've gotten the most out of our hog, I feel, with our feed conversion by then, and they haven't slowed down growing yet a lot. And the customer is getting more pork and more product.
Here's some of the things that we hope to change. The sourcing of our pigs, not necessarily changing it, but being consistent or finding a good solid source. That's one of our hopes. The timing of our pig harvest, like we mentioned earlier already, that we would like to try to get that a little earlier, but that depends on our source and if we can get them when we hope we can get them. We have some facility improvements that we would like to do. I've got a picture of it in our barn, which I'd like to make. We'd like to make the pen a little bit bigger. I mean, there's just some basic things that are,
Make things easier.
make things easier. Watering improvements. If we had a water, if we did it earlier in the season, we wouldn't have to worry about cold water in the fall. So that right there would help with watering. Otherwise, if we have to do winter, the cold water, it'd be nice to have a water in the barn,
A heated Richie.
a heated Richie of some sort. That's my dream. But that's, we'll deal with that as it comes, because they're usually not in the barn for very long. I see here some questions again.
We do a hanging weight price per hog.
Yep.
That way they pay for what they really get.
And then this last year we had 30 pigs, is how many we had. There's the pigs burrowed into their got cold, and so they did great. They never slowed down. They didn't get frostbite. It got really cold for a few days, and they were completely covered up with straw. A few times I thought the pigs were all gone, but they were completely buried in the straw, and they did fabulous. They got a little thicker hair coat than sometimes we've had pigs develop, and that was great. Here's our indoor facility. They can go out. You can see the light shining on the back end of the barn. Then there's a little door that they can go outside, and
They got a run out there, and feeders out there.
Feeders out there, and the water is in this case I was just hand watering the pigs. It was just for overnight, basically, that they were in the pen this year. And then here is kind of the ending, where it's the beginning of our pigs. It's right after we got them, and then the ending right there. It's delicious. So
Awesome. There were 2 more questions in there that you might have missed here. I just wanted to make sure. The one from And the UMS clarified her question from earlier and said, may I know, is there any specific question or specific hog products as hot selling items, highest demand, live animal or product?
As far as products, bacon is huge. Everybody wants bacon. If that's what you're talking about, bacon,
ground pork, and pork sausage. The breakfast meals, quick meals. That's what we've had our most demand for. So when we first did pigs, first did pasture pigs, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and we were selling direct market. Well, we actually did direct market. I should say that when we first started doing direct market with pigs, because before that we were just doing family and friends, and we'd do 8 or 10 a year, and that it was just, that's all it was. It was a cluster network of friends. And then we started marketing. Well, we thought we'd get products made. Okay, so we did that. Ham does not sell unless it's Christmas or Easter. So we ate a lot of ham, and now we don't make ham anymore.
Roasts are another thing
that doesn't sell all that.
That doesn't sell that well. And so the processed products of pork are what people really, really want.
That's what we found.
That's for us in our area, and what the customers that we have, they want the easier, quicker meals, which ham is great with, or what pork is great to do with.
Is most of your sales done in bulk, like half and whole pigs, or do you do cuts of your own and sell them by the cut?
We did for a couple of years sell by the cut. However, the last several years we've sold out of pigs. And I mean, because what we've done is we've bought, say 20 pigs or 30 pigs, and we would have, say we bought 30 pigs, we'd have 25 sell, we'd have 5 available that we could process our own, and we'd have product to just sell off the farm, bacon, the last several years, every pig is sold and we have a waiting list for more pigs. So
yeah, it was nice to have products to go with our beef. So this grass-fed beef is our primary enterprise. So that is where we put most of our time and our effort into. And so it was really nice though to have pork products so if someone wanted to order grass-fed beef a la carte, let's say they'd order 20 pounds of burger and some steaks, well, they would also order some pork products. And that was really a good thing. And that
complemented well.
And that complemented them getting wholes and halves, and because they've tried the product, they know it was what they wanted, and then they were able to step up into a whole or a half, a bigger budget item. So having those pieces and parts in the farm was really good for those that wanted to try it, because they're testing out. We found that with the beef also. It's good to have those cuts so that people can try it, and then they'll go on to a quarter or a half after that. A lot of the time. Not always, but it depends on their freezer.
There is maybe you're seeing them, the question on thistles, and I don't know if you've experienced it or if anybody here has experienced using pigs to kind of take care of a thistle problem, and if it works or doesn't work. I don't know if you have experience with that.
Thistles are indicative of overgrazed pasture most of the time. Well, we have thistle patches too. So, I mean, some places are overgrazed at times. And for us, we have not used the pigs to do anything with that. If anything, mob grazing the cows, that's what's taking care of thistles. They will eat the buds off thistles when you mob graze them, intensive grazing, where we strip graze them through those sometimes, and they'll nip a lot of that off and trample the rest. So that's what I would say. Yes. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that from other people?
A lot of times, if you just keep cutting the thistle, it'll go away after a couple of years. So
yeah. Improve your grass stand, improve your residual, and you'll have less thistle, especially because thistle. So we have I'll say two types of thistle on the farm here. We have a Canada thistle that's getting to be more of an issue, and I would enjoy putting the Canada thistle grows as a perennial. And that grows under the ground, and then it grows above ground, all right? But it's a perennial, and it gets this big, what's the word I'm looking for the type of root? A stoloniferous, is that the right word? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like quackgrass. It shoots out underneath the ground, and that's how it spreads. So you get these colonized areas. And I would love to put pigs into one of them and just see what it is, but that's a different area than where we're at with where our pigs are currently. And then we have a biennial thistle that is the Plumless Thistle, and those actually start growing in August, late July, August, and September, and they'll put their rosette out, and then the next year is when they bloom. So they're two different styles, and it would be enjoyable to try them in a Canada thistle in a perennial situation and see if you can kill them.
We wouldn't be scared to do that at all. They're just, our spots are too far away from the house for that, but that would be, I have no doubt the pigs would destroy it, and they would root them up, and they would have a blast with thistles.
And to those of folks not looking at the chat, Sarah had a good comment of moving her feeders to where they are to kind of encourage concentration of hogs in that area. You can do the same thing with cattle for those with cattle.
Yes.
And then the other thing with the thistle is increasing your grass stand as well. It's increasing your nutrients or your nutrient availability to your grass as well. If you increase that, you increase grass stand, you're gonna set back thistles and stuff. So just that competition factor.
Cool. Awesome. Did you have any more slides or anything?
I don't check here, but I think that was my last slide. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that was great. Thank you so much. And are there, we can't do a round of applause really virtually. That would be a total fail, I'm sure. So we won't even try, but thank you. Are there any more questions from anybody? If before people hop off too, I want to talk or ask a few questions of you all and stuff. But are there any more questions before we move on? There we go. Everybody's putting their applause in the chat. Yeah. Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
Yeah. I hear it.
I give her a pat on the back.
Yes, good.
That's funny.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm kind of curious for people, like I said, how this kind of started was that we have these cohorts that almost, it doesn't really. The first cohort I had was with one project where we had people from dairy production, to large feedlot dairies, to small dairies, to grazers, crop farmers. And it was like, okay, this cohort, everybody interested in soil health, but everybody's coming from a different direction. The next cohort we did was a grazing based one, and we had sheep, goat, beef producers, and we realized even this cohort, a grazing based cohort, isn't really specific enough. And so that's kind of where this idea of doing specific livestock species ones came out of. And I'm curious, are people interested in doing more of this, and what would be the most beneficial to you as a either a hog producer or interested in hog production? What would you like to see out of a cohort, if you even think there's value in it, just to kind of create networks of similar interests? And, if you have thoughts, go ahead and unmute and let me know. I'm curious. Maybe nobody's interested either.
I'm kind of just interested in the pigs, just because we dairy farm, so we pasture cows, and if we end up renovating every 5-6 years, and maybe I'm trying to figure out a different way to do that instead of mower, plowing, and disking, and and then trying to plant corn and all that to renovate it, get some rotation. And so I think pigs are a great way to do something different and then get a byproduct out of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
we're interested more in the pastured model, the movable pastures. We raised our first couple pigs last year. Limited success. It was easy. It was good. They were a little light, so I would be interested in learning more about feeding schedules and production models and nutrition and that sort of thing. Specifically more at a heritage breed. I think I'm going to aim for a farrow to finish, small, very small operation, just me and friends and family. So, so more information on that would be of interest to me.
Okay. And I see Eliza in the chat mentioned too that they farrow and would like to see more on this. So maybe if we do another one, getting a farrow to finisher to add that kind of side of the conversation would be of value. Any other thoughts?
Every year for 2 months, that you're trying to figure out where we're gonna source pigs. It seemed like it's kind of-
Sorry, Dale, you're kind of cutting out. Maybe come a little closer to the computer. And if you want to stop sharing screen too, then that would make kind of everybody be able to
Sorry.
see.
There you go.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, I was gonna say that, yeah, we every year when we're trying to source pigs, that usually comes up, can we farrow, this year's the year we start figuring out how to farrow and setting up a place to do it, because that's what it is having that year-round pigs on the farm and more winter water. That's probably our biggest, limiting factor. Do we want more winter chores?
Mhm. Good point. Yeah.
I would be very interested in a cohort of pig farmers. I farrow to finish, finished about 50 hogs this year. I farrow in partnership with another farmer who has winter water, where I do not have a barn or water here.
Yep.
And that's been very important, is these partnerships. And so that was something that came out of I also do mobile slaughter butcher, and that kind of relationship just came out of someone I had provided services for. But I think a cohort of people who could talk more about farrowing, because it's really complicated, and I really don't recommend adding it to your business until you're really sure about it.
Fair. Yeah. Yeah. I enjoy Richard's comment in the chat of never more winter chores. In all caps. Yeah, I can appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think if I'm understanding right, there's interest. I don't know if people want to, I guess we can just send everything out through the marketing channels we've done. But if everybody wants to throw an email in the chat, I guess, if they're interested, then I can put it in kind of a, document and try and send out kind of maybe focused conversation topics and things to this group. If we do more of that, you're welcome to throw that in there if you're interested. I did want to do kind of a plug for the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks we've got coming up next week, January 20th, same time every Thursday at 6 to 7:30 p.m. We have sheep production with Keith and Anna Johnson, as well as Doug and Connie from the Lamb Shop. The 27th, we have bison production with PJ Breen and Craig Fisher. February 3rd, there's goat production with Sherry Nolden and Jake Langslag. And then on February 10th, we've got chickens, pasture chicken production. So if that's something you're interested in, all of those, just like you registered for this one, you probably can find it again, is on SFA's website. I think they're on a few different places. But yeah, feel free to sign up for that. If you have ideas for me, my email is jared@sfa-mn.org. I'll type that in the chat too. And send me emails with thoughts, people maybe that would be interested in or be interesting to have talk on this. And if you have ideas for how to make this an engaging conversation on Zoom. It's always a struggle, I didn't know how it would go or how to make it, a kind of a conversational thing. And I think this was good with the chat and stuff. But if you have ideas on any of that, let me know. And there's my email in the chat. But if there's no more questions and no more thoughts, that's all I think we've got for tonight. And by no means feel like you have to jump off either. Stay on and chat, ask more questions if you have them.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We have some friends up in Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan, and they had a portable chicken coop. I don't know exactly if they ever got out, but they had hogs in a larger version of a portable Salatin pasture pen, And I'm not exactly sure how it all turned out, but they had pictures on Facebook a couple of years ago of that, and that was pretty cool. But they had, 4 or 6 in there, and you just kind of kept sliding it along. So they got new pasture every day or whatever, and then they fed them right in the side of that, I think. And it was is what they tried, and I think it worked for them at the time.
Yeah, Bob Kiernan over in Monaga,
Yep.
he has something similar to that actually as well. He's kind of, it's funny, he's got a truck on it, but it's really just a dolly because the truck doesn't run. He pulls it forward with his tractor, but the truck is the dolly on a gooseneck trailer that is fastened to a big, maybe 30 by 30 or something pen that he pulls ahead just like a chicken tractor every day. And the feed and water are in the trailer. The water is in the gooseneck of the trailer, I think, and the pigs have shelter in the trailer. And then that kind of pen is built out of solid like metal and posts and stuff, and he pulls it ahead with the tractor. And it's yeah, kind of an interesting setup too. Sounds like that.
Yeah, that's just thinking out of the box helps out a lot of the time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Liza asked who's where, kind of which area are people in and stuff, to see if there's maybe folks in your regions. Feel free to throw those in the chat.
Great idea.
Yeah. I'd be open to people if they're wanting to turn on their cameras and have conversation too. I don't know how it'll go. Maybe it'll be a bunch of people talking over each other, but you're more than welcome to try at this point. I don't know what to expect.
Does everybody on here have pigs currently? Or, I mean, has everybody tried pigs, or is there some that are yet to do it?
We did our first 2 last year.
Okay.
I had 2 way back in 4th grade. I haven't raised any since.
Okay.
We have 5 gilts and a boar right now. 2 of the Berkshire gilts are bred to farrow in about 60 days.
Okay.
Those
We
2 were
presently don't
artificially inseminated before.
We don't have hogs here. I grew up with hogs as a kid, but we keep looking at with the grass-fed beef sometimes where we do our winter pasturing. It'd be nice to have them do it for a cleanup.
Eliza, do you sell feeders in the spring?
This might be our first year we do, but our gilts are not going to be a year until the end of May.
Okay.
I just put the boar in with them. The 2 that are bred out currently are the 2 full. So we have 2 full pure Berkshires that were bred to Shipley swine AI. And then we determined that if we're going to be shipping in semen, we probably could just pay for a boar. So we then purchased a boar and are just putting him in. They should be coming in to heat this weekend and seeing what happens there next week. So that would be them are a little bit later. Hopefully next year, I would like to have them all close to farrowing in March. We just moved to a new property in September from southern Minnesota up to where our family is. And yeah, that whole process, I do have actually a YouTube channel that doesn't have much on it, but it's there if you want to see how we do run it. It is Virna Farms, and I saw Virna is on here too. So, but that's what I do.
Okay. North Pine County, right?
We are right on the northern border of Pine County.
Okay. Well, I'm in Isani, so I'm not too terribly far from you.
Okay. Yeah. And the 3 that are being bred hopefully this weekend or whenever they come into heat are actually large black Tamworth, Berkshire, and Whitechester. They came from, I think, Bill Johnson out on the western side of the state. So
I'd like to interject that we had a large black last year that grew a little slow and wasn't able to go to the processor. So we ate him and delicious. I mean, delicious. So that old breeding is there's something to be said for really good pork. We get pigs, a variety of pigs, but I really personally I like to eat that type of stuff. But that I don't like really dry pork. So anyway, that's just a personal thing, and it's enjoyable.
Did you put your email address in here, Elisa?
Yes, I did. It's in the chat. It's virnafarm@gmail.com, but I spell it with an I, not an E.
Eliza, I've got some similar numbers to you. We're breeding about 7 sows, and we have a boar. And that's, you know, we've had 20-ish piglets last month, and hopefully 50 plus coming in March, April. And are you finding, what are you selling your feeder pigs at, and are you finding it to be profitable? Because it's definitely one of the worst decisions I've made for my business in terms of profitability is breeding my own. But I had the problem everyone else had, which was I want to finish 50 pigs and I can maybe buy 5 or 10, if that. And so if I want to grow my pork business, I need to grow feeder pigs so that I can finish feeder pigs.
Right. I have not, this will be our first year having extra. Last year we had the mama to the 2 Berks, was the only sow I had bred, and she gave us 11 alive. One of them was a runt with a hernia, and then we had just the 2 girls, and the rest were barrowed, and we sold all of those Berks. Like, yeah, we have a pretty good waiting list already for processed pig. I have 30 slots for this coming year, but I do not know how selling piglets is going to go. That's a new adventure for us. So yeah, when I started out, I had a neighbor who I was like, okay, I'll get piglets. It can't be that expensive. And it was way more than I thought, because he usually did show pigs. And so then I started calculating and thought, well, let's get into this. Our story goes back to, we raise them low corn, low soy, for the fact we had 2 medical professionals that said with the health issues, autoimmune issues in our family, that would be the best way to do it. We have one customer who shared our pork with somebody who hasn't been able to eat pork in years, and that was or meat in years, and that was the first time she could eat meat because of the corn allergies. So that has been kind of our go-to, is kind of a health conscious more so. But even next year, I have a waiting list of at least 5 people, and I haven't even been in contact. Plus, we moved from 5 hours away to be up closer to family. So trying to rebuild a whole new background is something new for us too. But I do know that a farmer up here just shut down his farrow finish.
Did just want to say I'll be on here as long as people want to be on here, but it is 7:30. And to those hopping off, thank you so much for coming on. Feel free to email me. I realized I sent an email for my email first to one person, so I just shared it with everybody. Email me if you have thoughts. Thank you so much. And yeah, people are welcome to stay on as long as they want. And thank you again, Dayle and Ivan, for sharing your story. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jared.
Yeah.